Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we have an active weather pattern to get into, so let's get right into it. Without further ado, taking a look at our jet stream across the United States. Notice here there's a trough across the western United States, and there's also another one over here across the eastern United States into the Ohio Valley. This one is producing some isolated severe weather across the circle region as we head in towards the afternoon time frame of today, and this area of energy is just producing some generalized showers and thunderstorms over there, but definitely enough to interrupt some plans. As we take it into the daytime hours tomorrow for your Thursday, we will likely begin to focus our potential for severe weather up here across portions of the northern plains and upper high plains region, as we'll likely have a high pressure ridge that sets up right here. We'll also have another one that sets up right here that drags lots of moisture into the country, so that's definitely going to fuel the fire for the possibility of severe weather. And then as we head into the daytime hours on Friday, notice here that we'll likely continue to see this trough just roaring through, just blasting through areas like the northern plains. It's not going to be a big cool down or anything, but troughs this time of year, folks, if you have lots of moisture getting up into this area, you're definitely going to have severe weather, all right? So anywhere where there's jet energy, I mean, especially this narrow corridor right here, I could see some severe weather as we head in towards that time frame. We'll also need to watch this piece of jet energy, maybe for a sneaky severe weather setup in this area. It's going to be very isolated, if anything, but there could definitely be some strong thunderstorms there, so that definitely don't let that catch you off guard. Taking it into the day on Saturday, look at this area of high pressure. It is offshore as we head in towards this time frame, but it's still this one is going to be continuing to drag up lots of Gulf moisture into this impulsive energy, all right? And like I said, when you get troughs this time of year to interact with the July heat, you have severe weather, and this is where I'm looking for the possibility of severe weather through the day. On Saturday, it would be isolated to scatter, but still severe weather is severe weather, so make sure you're staying weather aware. And then as we take it into the day on Sunday, we will likely get into an interesting weather pattern where we have a high pressure ridge right here and another one right here across the desert southwest, dragging up lots of moisture onto this jet stream. I would not be surprised maybe if we saw a couple thunderstorm complexes in this area. All right, there's not enough shear for like a derecho type event, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had some brief organization of maybe a couple line segments of thunderstorms in these areas. All right, there is enough mid-level support, 40 to 50 knots, to support that, so that's definitely something to note of as we head into Sunday. But as we head into the daytime hours on Monday, July 14th, area of high pressure continues to sit here in the Gulf. It's likely going to continue to drag up lots of moisture into the Ohio Valley, and we're likely going to also watch this Western Pacific high, where we'll likely continue to see moisture getting trapped into this area. Severe weather would be possible in this area as we head in towards Monday, July 14th. Maybe some sort of MCS threat across this area, so definitely something to keep an eye on there. And then as we head into Tuesday, July 15th, same pattern. We're likely going to continue to see this area of high pressure with lots of moisture getting northward. Like I said, if you get embedded short waves and ripples in the jet stream, you get threats of severe weather, and this is the area I'm focusing on for the day on Tuesday. Maybe more so something like this, all right? Maybe more so something like that, but definitely keep an eye on that if you live in that area. In these yellow shaded areas, that's a lot more wind shear and upper level support, so make sure you're keeping an eye on that, because that could be maybe a bit more elevated severe weather. And then as we head into Wednesday, July 16th, things become a bit more uncertain. However, this area of high pressure looks to continue to sit here along with this one, possibly seeing three areas of high pressure, all right? One off the southeast coast that is likely going to help to drag in moisture to the Gulf. Also, I did also want to point out we could see something tropical try to develop here with all this moisture going around this low, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on there. But in terms of severe weather potential, it is highly there because we have a lot of Gulf moisture that's going to be yanked up on the end of this high pressure system. And like I said, folks, as long as we have the wind shear we need in this area, we're likely going to have the threat for some severe weather. And I mean, It's too early to nail down like specifics, but I wouldn't be surprised if in this area we see something significant as we head in towards the middle of next week. All right, definitely something I'm going to be watching very closely. And then for the sake of, I don't know, the active weather pattern, let's just take a look at what it could preliminarily look like as we head in towards Thursday, July 17th. All right, this model trying to signal another trough, a ripple in the jet stream across the Great Lakes region, along with this area of high pressure continuing to drag up lots of Gulf moisture. Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we see an MCS threat in this area. I really wouldn't, because I mean, just look at this jet streak here, all right? I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a more organized threat of severe weather in this area, especially where the bright greens and gold colors are, all right? That is enhanced wind shear, all right? That's definitely something to keep an eye on there as we head in towards the later part of next week. And taking a look now at your precipitation trends across the United States as we head in towards this afternoon and evening, showers and thunderstorms will likely erupt across this area where we'll likely have the jet energy, all right, like I said, isolated to scattered damaging winds up to 70 miles an hour will be a very good possibility. Otherwise, we'll likely see pop-up activity across this area. And then as we take it into the daytime hours tomorrow, we will likely begin to watch out for the possibility of thunderstorms in the Plain States as well as the upper Midwest. Continuation of some strong thunderstorms are certainly possible down here in the southeast coast, but it's mainly going to be a flooding threat, in my opinion. But as we take it into the day on Friday, it looks like we might get maybe an organized threat of severe weather across this area. As I mentioned, as that jet stream energy will likely eject over lots of humidity and lots of instability. So that's something to watch if you live in northern Kansas, back up into Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, maybe a slight risk day or an enhanced risk day. We're going to have to wait and see. But as we head into the daytime hours on Saturday, we will likely continue to see at least an isolated threat of severe weather, mainly in the threat of damaging wind gusts and maybe an isolated tornado. All hazards are certainly possible, though. And over here, we'll likely continue to just see pop-up activity in the heating of the day and, your regular downburst threat as well. And then as we take it into the daytime hours on Sunday, July 13th, we'll likely continue to see at least some isolated threat of severe weather across the Northeast. I'm not really looking at anything too impressive. Down here, it's just going to be mainly generalized thunderstorms, maybe with some isolated gusty wind threat, as we'll likely have a downburst wind threat, typical of summertime. But as we head into Monday, July 14th, we will likely begin to see this pattern setup where we have, like I said, your high pressure system in the Gulf and a desert southwest and western Pacific high setup that will likely drag lots of moisture onto this jet stream and fuels the fire across this area, folks, all right? This looks like a nasty storm system as we head in towards Monday for areas of the southern Canadian prairies as well as maybe extreme northern plains. So that's something to watch out for. We'll also need to watch northwestern Montana and as well as maybe the higher plains for the possibility of some severe weather. But as we head into Tuesday, July 15th, look at this system, folks, all right? Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this sets up this way, if we have some sort of substantial, significant severe weather threat across this area. All right, this would definitely be a nasty thunderstorm complex potential if it were to become a significant severe weather threat. So significant damaging winds would be your big threat with that. Otherwise, again, we're going to be talking about generalized afternoon pop-up showers and thunderstorms across this area. Did also want to mention we could see something subtropical develop off the coast of Florida as we head in towards that 15th time frame. So that is something to keep an eye on. But as we head in towards Wednesday, July 16th, we will likely continue to see at least minor ridging across portions of the northern plains, or minor ridging, as we'll likely continue to get this flow up and over the ridge. We'll likely feel the fire from more thunderstorms across this area and severe weather definitely possible. And then as we take it into the day on Thursday, July 17th, as that jet energy pushes off towards the east, high pressure will fill in behind that, though that flow will likely continue to promote This front continuing to drag southeastward, so I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see significant severe weather across this area as we head in towards the middle and end of next week, with more thunderstorm complexes possible as we round out the month of July. And taking a look at your tropical weather potential over the course of the next 7 days, notice here it's fairly quiet across this area, as we'll likely get, like I said before, we have this area of high pressure right over the Gulf that is keeping things intact right now, and we do have a lot of tropical thunderstorms offshore the Carolina coast, but that is not anything tropical. But watch what happens as we head into the day on Friday. All right, we begin to get this area right here of disorganized showers and thunderstorms onshore. Watch what these do as we head in towards Saturday the 12th. All right, these move offshore. All right, there's a little area of low pressure that tries to develop out of this. Is it tropical? That's a question mark, but we definitely could see some very heavy rainfall out of that in Louisiana. And as we head in towards, Sunday, July 13th, you could see lots of tropical moisture scattered about this entire area. Again, does anything get organized? It's definitely a possibility. I'm watching this area as we head in towards the 13th and the 14th for maybe something. Notice here around the 14th, there's a low pressure system. Not strong low pressure system, but enough to be maybe a tropical depression just off the coast of South Carolina. And then as we head in towards July 15th, this is when things start to get kind of interesting. All right, we're likely going to be dealing with some very heavy flooding rains across this area, which hopefully shouldn't be too big of an issue. This is exactly where I had the flooding a day or two ago. So this is just going to be bad news for North Carolina and maybe even South Carolina this time, since we're likely going to have rain training over the same area. Also need to watch this very heavy area of precipitation down at the Florida coast. And then as we head in towards Wednesday, July 16th, you can see we just have several areas of moisture to talk about, all right? Flooding rainfalls possible across this area, all right? Depending on where you are, the more flooding there will be. Hopefully it's not too bad, but we definitely could still have flooding across this area, so definitely stay weather aware as we head in towards the middle part of next week in this area. And like I said before, we need to watch this area down here that just moved offshore, because as we head in towards July 17th, it begins to deepen a little bit, all right? This model, not too impressed with it, but, this does show a tropical depression, maybe a low-end tropical storm. And as we head in towards July 18th, that kind of throws this onshore across portions of the Gulf Coast region, all right? That's definitely something to watch as we head in towards this time frame, but this entire area is at risk for flooding rain, so you definitely have to stay weather aware no matter what, tropical or not, if you live in this area. And taking a look at total forecasted rainfall over the course of the next 10 days, notice here that there is a big area of interest for heavy rainfall, all right? Like I said, that's where those tropical pieces of energy will go. And look offshore. We could be seeing some localized 3 to 5 inches of rain. This is definitely going to be a concern for maybe some flash flooding onshore across portions of the Carolinas, like in this area. We'll also need to watch out for heavy rain in these areas that are part maybe of a storm system that will likely drop out of the Great Lakes region. But over here, it's just going to be tropical central as we head in towards the next 10 days. So overall, definitely want to keep an eye out for the flooding potential if you live in this area over the course of the next 10 days or so.